down gold and GJ to figure out a good time or place that we could bring price down to, depending on what the data comes out at.
Yep. All right, we're live now. Go for it.
All right, what's going on, guys? Hope everyone's doing well. Down gold and GJ. I'm going to quickly break everything down. What we have is NFP coming out. If we take a look at ADP, it doesn't always align, right? But we ended up getting slower job numbers, slower job employment added. Okay. Sorry, I think I just muted you, Sharma. My bad. So anyway, missed its mark, what they were expecting. A little bit higher than previous, but at the same time, they were expecting 300,000 jobs added for ADP. Again, ADP is the leading paycheck provider for any kind of employer in the U.S. So that their job data is obviously going to have some weight here. So that ended up missing its mark. We also got sentiment out of the White House that job numbers are going to be slowing down this month as well. Take that like a grain of salt, but we'll see what ends up happening. But if they're saying it, you know, it's in their best interest that they add more jobs, and if they're saying it, then I would expect a little slowdown. Again, very big surprise last month. 528,000 jobs added. Right now, they're expecting a little bit under 300,000. So we'll see what we end up getting. If we get really good numbers, I would expect a further decrease or further bearish movement on gold, and we can expect some kind of a tank here, continuing down to 1680. Or, you know, if we get really bad numbers, all of a sudden I could see price bouncing. And I was just breaking down for the group what I'm looking at here on gold, and how it's interesting that we're now back down into this area between 1680 and 1700 in here, right? Last time we were in here, ended up projecting. Obviously, we created this wick over here that we could now be filling. Hasn't filled just yet. But right over here, were actually really good NFP numbers that drove us all the way down into 1680, and then retraced, closing right back like a doji, right back above 1750, and in that range between 1830 1750, right? But before that, we ended up getting a bearish candle close in that area. We rejected 1680 and closed above 1700, right? All of a sudden, Israel-Gaza conflict ended up happening, shot us right back up to 1900, right? So right from that area, we just shot up. Now, if we're looking at candle body anatomy and how the previous August monthly candle ended up closing, we closed a strong bearish candle, but no bottom wick. So no more momentum to push us down. This current September candle looks like we created a very small top wick over here, but we ended up just passing the low of the previous candle, and now we're starting to retrace from that area. So if we get really good or really bad numbers coming out of the US, could we hold support right here at 1700, and this candle end up flipping bullish, and we get some kind of a pullback like we did over here coming back up? I think a lot has to happen for that to happen, but technically we know this is a strong demand area, right? And at any point, this candle looks like it's rejecting this whole zone right here so far. So at any point, this candle could flip bullish, and we could get some kind of a pullback into that area, maybe up here, to then maybe continue down, or we get an actual pullback coming back above 1750. Right now, it's hard for that to happen because obviously everything is following the central banks, and how the U.S. central bank is very hawkish, and how they do want to increase rates this month again, right, by 75 basis points. So we'll see what ends up happening. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if we get at least some kind of a bounce off this area over here, where price like just bounces up to 1750, and then we continue down if anything. Looking at the weekly now. Now the weekly is straight bearish, right? Weekly, we've just been creating lower highs, lower lows. Created this resistance right here, back of that previous support. Perfect retest. Holding that resistance in a key area right here. Holding that resistance right in here, and just pushing all the way back down to this support over here at 1700. Right, psychological level. Obviously held the support with candle bodies here to the left as well. Right, so are we going to reject that level, or can we continue back down to 1680 or strong area right down here, strong demand area, right? Looking at the daily now, daily looks like we're holding a support right at that 1700 level, a little bit below 1700, but that's the candle body lows and candle body closes and opens right over here is at the same time. So last time we were in this area, we shot up. We got that liquidity grab at 1680, right? But then flipped bullish and continued up from that area. So are we going to hold this support over here and continue up with bad numbers, or are we going to get some good numbers and continue down? Even if we get good numbers, I see us getting like some kind of a liquidity grab and then continuing down. But we'll see what we look like in the lower time frames and see what our levels are that we're waiting for. Got about 14 minutes left. All right, so we can mark that off as our most recent support. You obviously have this wick right over here as well that price bounced off of before continuing up. But right now, this is our most recent support. And so far, since tapping off of that 1693 area, 1694, we've been bullish, creating higher lows, higher highs on the 4 hour. But this could be just some kind of a pullback before continuing down. So what we've had was since 1800, for the last, what is that? I would say 2 weeks, we've been bearish, creating lower highs, lower lows, coming all the way down into this whole area over here between 1700 and 1680. Right now, we're holding a support, getting some kind of a pullback. So where could we be coming into? Multiple areas right here. Could we hold at 1710? This previous support over here that price bounced off of. Previous support over here as well that price broke through. Could we hold that as a resistance to continue down? I want to see what we look like on the lower time frames. First, there we go. Okay, so now what we have on the 1 hour is a previous support, ended up holding as a resistance. So far, we're rejecting that area as well. And right now, we ended up holding a support in this area as well with a bullish candle close. Right, so right now, so far, we ended up getting some kind of a support in this area. Now, if we bring this in a little bit, and then look at the 30-minute. Okay, so 30-minute, we're basically just ranging in this area. We got the pullback, and I think if we get really good numbers, I think we can break this support, and we're going to end up retesting 1680, and then end up coming back down to 1690, and then 1680, right? We could get that tank. So right now that we're consolidating over here, if this is what you guys do, can you place some kind of a sell stop below 1704, and then you could place a buy stop above 1708, 400 in this area to continue back up. If it's really bad numbers, I could see some kind of a pullback into this area with a fairly clean move to the left. And that's definitely where you'd want to take profit. You got about 140 pips up there. All right, and then over here, you get about 100 pips there. So what I normally do, I don't set those sell stops or buy stops, but what I do is I wait for the reaction to the news, and then I trade that. We were actually looking at our journal from last week. Where was it? No, this was... Here we go. Not last week, but last month. The NFP move that ended up happening over here. These are the notes and everything. If you guys want... I was going to say I could send this to YouTube, but it's going to take forever. But we were looking at how the numbers came out much better than expected. Like we were just breaking down, right? And gold just ended up falling 233 pips, right? So there were multiple moves that could have happened over here. You could have set a sell stop and grabbed this whole move over here. You could have grabbed the retracement over here after the low was created on the 1 minute where this candle closed bearish. You could have taken this whole move down over here. I ended up just waiting for 1774 to close below and retest this area. Ended up entering after this candle, I think, flipped bearish, or after this candle closed, but ended up grabbing the 1-to-1 over here for 23 pips, and that was it. Right, but now you know, if you get really good surprise numbers, I would expect gold to just drop over here. If we get really bad numbers, maybe we get a liquidity grab and price continues up, breaking 1708 and continuing up through here. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
All right. So we're just gonna. Do you want to break down GJ or you want to do US 30?
We could do GJ and then we can move on to US 30 if there's
Okay.
time, or I'll like update you guys.
Okay. I doubt there's gonna be enough time for US 30 if we do one of these, but looking at GJ, I'll try to get through this quickly. GJ monthly candle ended up closing a weaker bearish candle, but it did create a lower high and a lower low, right? So is this candle holding support at 161 and going to continue up from here, right? With a weak Japanese yen, if you guys take a look at the yen, price is just breaking supports and continuing down over here. So maybe we're grabbing liquidity with this bottom wick and flipping bullish over here for good. Looking at the weekly is a mess still. 161 holding that support. I'll actually draw a horizontal line there. Almost had it. Draw that horizontal line. Right now, these candles from 168,400, we've been creating these lower highs, lower lows. We held a resistance here at 166. Ever since then, we've been printing these lower highs over here, holding that previous support as a new resistance in this area, but these candles are getting weaker, right? And now we're holding support at this area, creating a higher low, and this candle is pushing up, possibly creating a higher high, passing the high of the previous weekly candle over here. So can we push into here? Can we start pushing into this area over here to maybe reject and continue down, or break that area to continue back up to 166? Daily. All right, daily. Again, we've had this bearish trend. Just pushing down over here. 166, very strong level that price bounced off of for the last time right here, and just shot all the way down, holding that support around 161. We faked it out over here, and then we keep respecting 161. And now we're getting a nice bounce with that bullish candle close yesterday. This candle created its lower high, or higher low, and then passed the high of the previous candle. So we're now coming up into our previous resistance over here, but since creating this low over here, we came up into this previous area, which ended up being a previous support. We could drag that to the left as well. So that's definitely a significant area, especially because we ended up, after coming down into this area, we ended up retesting that area as well, right? Now we're coming back down into 161, holding support over here. A few days ago, we ended up getting that bounce off that area. Now we're coming into that. Now we came into 161, got the bounce again. Right, so now we're just in this higher time frame range over here that we need to really break out of. It's a mess. Looking at the 4 hour. What's interesting about the 4 hour is you can draw this like that, just because you get so many rejections of that whole entire area over here. Very strong zone. But right here, you have these lower highs being respected. Price is pushing down, lower highs, lower lows. Not lower lows, but higher lows. Ascending bullish channel right here. The price is respecting. So obviously all of this is just a major range, right? That you really want to, if you're going to trade in this, you got to lower your risk. Right? It's just a higher time frame mess. So now breaking down the candle body anatomy. I don't know why that's there. Right from my last breakdown. 161. Holding this support right in this area. Bouncing off multiple times. Right? And then all of a sudden we got the close outside of that area. We come down, retest, and now we're pushing into this area, which now we're starting to hold some kind of a resistance at that previous resistance here to the left. Now that's a key area because you're now meeting up with the trend line and the previous rejection area as well. Right? So these candles are getting a little bit weaker as well as we're approaching that area. So looking at the 1 hour, you're starting to see that whole rejection of that area so far. We have a higher low, our more recent higher low that was formed right here. So is this enough to be trading in, or are you going to have safer sells once we break this support right here to continue down? You also have that level right there that you need to be aware of. Let's look at the 30-minute. Yeah, 30-minute, I would actually just adjust this to right here. We're now rejecting that area over here. We created a lower high on the 30-minute. So we'll see how this closes in 5 minutes. Does it close below our support right here? Do you have enough range in here for you to take a sell? Got about 29 pips, 30 pips right here, possibly. But do you want to do that, or would you rather wait for this level to break, or even better yet, you have this previous support right here and a clean move right back down to 161. Fairly clean move. About 60 pips over there. This gets a little hard to trade unless you get like a perfect break and retest below that area to continue down, and then you can hold that runner. But again, we're rejecting off that level. Last time we did that, look at the move that we got. Just lower highs right here, right here, right here, pushing all the way down to 161. All right, so can we get the same thing? And that was also coming off a recovery and bounce off of 161 to the left over here as well. Right over here, we kind of consolidated and then pushed up into that area and then corrected the entire move. Very messy price action, but nonetheless, that's exactly what happened once we rejected 162.400. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. We are still creating higher lows, but again, I think you're going to have safer sells right back below 161.870, and then even safer below 161.630. So we got news coming out in 3 minutes. Let me just use the bathroom real quick, and then I'll be right back. All right?
No worries. Do you want me to? I'll share my screen and do US 30 real quick until then.
Okay.
All right.
Let me give you the ability.
Okay, perfect. So let's go over US 30 real quick. I'm gonna start off with a monthly time frame and just go down on the lower time frames. So we're going to mark off some of these support areas here first. So here on the monthly time frame, that low support that's being formed, that's going to be that 30,700 mark. That is also that break and retest resistance before a massive push up right into that all-time high levels where we ended up consolidating out and we're correcting this entire bullish push up from. So that's the first level that I'm going to mark off, and then you can also mark off the current monthly candles body low, but again, that is a new monthly candle that just started forming, so you do want to give price enough room to kind of wick around. You'll see how we'll adjust this level when we drop down to the lower time frames. And then the resistance is going to be right on top of the previous monthly candle, right around here, and that is going to be that 32,800 mark. I'm actually going to adjust this level here into a zone, but when you drop down to the weekly time frame, you see how it sits right on top of a weekly consolidation before a push up, and we came back and made a top wick rejection right into this area of support for this entire consolidation, right? That is how you know that there's liquidity right into this area. So when this candle closed with that top wick, the following candle, weekly candle, no top wick whatsoever, continued pushing down and closed at the bottom of its range, right? So no bottom wick either. A ton of bearish momentum. And then this week we also made a top wick, came back down, and then it seems like we've grabbed liquidity from this consolidation area here as well. So what I'm going to do is actually mark off this level as a zone instead of just a horizontal line. So this is going to be my entire zone of this weekly consolidation that price has tapped into. You look to the left, again, that is a lot of consolidation, makes a bottom wick and then a massive push up, barely a top wick here, which again tells me that it closed at the top of its range. A little support and then consolidation resistance, we've tapped into that. Drop down onto the daily time frame, and the previous daily candle closed bullish with that bottom wick rejection, and now it's starting to push up here, the new daily candle where it made a bottom wick. So what I want to see here as I narrow in my zones is I want to see price continue to break its own high right at this level. So let's just call this 31 30,800. Just to give price enough room right now as news has come out to kind of wick around. But you see on the daily time frame, even though there's a bullish momentum, there's a little bit of consolidation, pushed up, another consolidation, and then pushed up. And that's the level that we're testing right now. So if we want to look for any continued buy opportunities, we need price to continue breaking above that 31,800 as it is kind of testing out right now. You drop down to the 4-hour time frame. You see how price is holding on to this resistance. You can narrow in your zones if you want a little bit more here. Breaks out of it, and then we get this nice little break and retest, and that's what price is doing right now as it continues up. So you have a potential US 30 buy that's happening right now. Drop down to the hourly time frame, a ton of consolidation, price is pushing up. What I would do with NFP is at least wait for the 5-minute candle to close bullish and then look for those potential buy opportunities. Or else what you can end up doing is tapping into all of this consolidation here to the left and then just faking out and price pushing right back down. Right, I don't know what the data is. I haven't looked at it just yet, but according to where the data is, that's you want to be very careful with your trade because there's a lot of market sentiment around a lot of these equities, and then also gold or any other asset that you may be trading with the US dollar, because the Fed does have an economic data driven approach. So they are maintaining those high interest rates and everything like that, but a lot of their decisions when it comes down to the monetary policies is dependent on the economic data that's coming out. When you drop down to the 15-minute, so again, made a bottom wick, pushed up, we're kind of rejecting into this area. So what we want to see here on the 5-minute time frame is just a candle to close bullish and then the next candle to continue up. So then we can look for tighter stop loss, but again, we have a better risk to reward with that trade opportunity. Any questions? Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, go for it, Stefanos. You can continue sharing.
Right. So anybody see the data that just came out? Jobs beat expectations a lot less than previous over here, so they dropped, but it still broke what they were expecting over here. Now, average earnings index, or average hourly earnings, oh my god, ended up missing the mark, and then also unemployment rose by 0.2%. Right, so that's obviously not good. They haven't rose in a while, I believe. Yeah, 3.6. It's been 3.6 the last couple of months over here. So now it's at 3.7%. So that's obviously not good. If we go back to gold over here, we made a huge push up. And as Sharma was saying, you want to wait for that 5-minute to close above this resistance here. Got about 2 minutes. And we'll see if we could get some kind of a formation over here to hold support and continue up to fill this wick, which we should be doing. So I'm just going to mark this off. So we formed that wick, looking at the 1 minute. 1 minute ended up coming down, grabbing liquidity, right? And now we're coming back up into this area. I just want to see what ends up happening. Like I said, I ended up taking NFP last month. Or was it? No, it's the wrong time.
It's also important to understand exactly what's happening in the labor market right now. When you're looking at the micro level, again, there's a lot of layoffs that are happening. So when this labor market data is coming out with jobs opening up and things like that, it's not just that there's legit just companies firing people on one end and then looking to hire new people on the other end. There's a lot of retirement that's happening. For example, there's a lot of people who are looking for opportunities instead of like in person doing like remote work, right? And then you have to understand like, okay, what kind of effect does that essentially have? Because a lot of people used to, go in person for work. They used to pay for childcare. They used to pay for those kind of jobs, right? And now, obviously, if your parents are going to be working from home, they're not paying for childcare, so you have those jobs that are also being affected, right? There's a lot of people who are switching industries. So unemployment is really anybody who's, active in the labor market in the sense that either you're looking for a job or you're working somewhere but you're also looking for a job somewhere else. So you're transitioning between jobs. So any of those is really part of the unemployment numbers that we're looking at. If you're just home, you've retired, you're not looking for a job actively, you're not considered, unemployed. You're not part of that pool of people. Unemployed is people who are actively looking for jobs.
Absolutely. Getting this pulled back over here. We'll see if we respect this resistance right here. Support area. See, the 1 minute keeps rejecting 1710, 1711. We'll see if we can hold support to continue up. It's best to just trade the reaction to the news. Wait for everything to settle down a little bit. Wait for spreads to come down, right, if you're a scalper. And then just trade the reaction. See what ends up happening. This could just be a liquidity grab to continue down.
There's actually an article that I just sent to the group while you were breaking down gold and GJ.
Okay.
It's, take it with a grain of salt, of course. It's just somebody else kind of posting their analysis, but it's very interesting. This was like one form of data collection and analysis in a way, right? So I'm gonna, if you want to pull up the article here, and I'll also drop it into YouTube if you guys want to take a look. It's just interesting to see different perspectives.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to see what this 1 minute ends up doing over here. Because if you look at the 5 minute came down, created that bottom wick, is now flipping bullish. But we got to see if we get that close above this area. You got a wick to fill here in the 1 minute. Are you looking at taking anything, Sharma?
Yeah, I actually took the US 30 trade on the 5 minute time frame when there was a break and retest.
Okay. Alright, so the 5 minute over here is now passing the high of the previous candle. Can we continue up from here to fill this wick? Let me see that. 30 minutes just pushing up here. Alright, so you wanted to, just going to keep this over here to the right.
So what this person basically did was they went back and they took a look at different NFP data that came out, about 25 of them. And then if you continue down onto the page, so they made a chart, with correlations and deviations and things like that of different time frames, and really what's the effect that the news has on gold specifically. So there's about 13 that came out positive, so they came out better than what they were forecasting, and then I believe about 12 negative NFP data, or where you missed the mark. When you continue down, then they have a correlation chart, and basically they said that the correlation is strongest when you're looking at the 15-minute time frame, basically lower time frames. But then as you start to increase on the higher time frames, the correlation starts to get weaker, which basically means that when there's data coming out, and they did this specifically for NFP, but this is something that we kind of talk about on our breakdowns and live sessions and everything like that. But this is basically what I mean when I say that higher time frame structure is always going to be strong, and price is always going to hold on to higher time frame structure. Whenever data comes out, you can expect the reaction of it on lower time frames, but really it's not going to change anything on the hourly, or it's not going to change anything on the 4 hour. It's not going to be enough to break structure on a very strong bullish structure. Just because a negative NFP came out, it doesn't mean that bullish structure is going to be broken on the 4 hour. So this was a pretty good article that kind of goes over a form of data collection and analysis, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
So if you're someone who's trying to figure out, for example, when we say back testing and things like that, go back and look at the setups and stuff, look at how the market reacted to certain news, to certain time frames, to certain market opens, things like that. This is one variation of that, basically. So this person went back and they took a look at how price has reacted to NFP release, and then essentially is that a positive, negative, or no correlation?
Yeah, these are the things you really got to pay attention to. It's just basically history.
Yeah.
All right. So now, looking at GJ, so far we're holding this support. Let's see what we end up doing from here on the 1 minute, 5 minute. Still, 5 minute ended up closing bearish over here, but we're still respecting this level. Can we hold a support here to continue back up?
Do you want to hop over to US 30 real quick while
Sure.
we're waiting?
GJ didn't really move.
So I can break down my trade, and then I've just managed it, just took some partials as well. So then, because the rest of the day I won't be able to really manage it.
Yeah.
All right, we can go on to the 5 minute time frame.
Sure.
Right. So there's actually two entries here. The first one took yesterday with anticipation with all like the employment news that we have coming out throughout the week. That NFP was probably going to come out a bit positive as well. So yesterday's was actually taken. The trade was taken. If you want to zoom out a little bit.
Sure.
So the first trade was 31,521.5, if you want to mark that off.
What was it? 31.
521.5.
Okay.
There you go. So that's the break and retest back here. So this one right here, stop loss right at this level, and the reason why is I'm gonna mark it off here on the 5 minute time frame, but I want you guys to go back and take a look at this these levels that I'm marking off on the weekly time frame and down. So specifically here, all of this is that weekly consolidation that we were just talking about, right? And so this was all that weekly consolidation resistance. Essentially what I was looking for was price to break above that and continue making those higher highs and higher lows. When you go up to higher time frames, you will see that on the 4-hour time frame we get the clean break above this area, and there is a retest that happens, right? So right at this level, a retest that happens, price pulls back, you go onto the hourly time frame, you're going to get the same confirmation, same thing on the 15 minute, 30 minute, everything like that. And then when you drop down to the 5 minute time frame, we held on to a strong support. So majority of this confirmation again came from higher time frames. We held on to a nice support, got a break and retest here on the 5 minute time frame, and then that's pretty much where I took the entry. The TP being at 32,800, which is from the daily and weekly time frames. So price pushed up, and then I moved my stop loss right above entry. So let me remove all these annotations so you guys can see it clearly. But I moved my stop loss right above the entry. Price consolidated out, continued pushing. With the current entry, the new one that I just took, price made a bottom wick here, and this is right when news came out. So price made a bottom wick and then broke the highs. That's where I took this entry, which is at 31,691.5. And then same thing, same TP area. I just took some partials as price was fluctuating on the previous 5 minute candle here, and then moved my stop loss to break even. So it's sitting right at this level at the moment. So I want to see how price is going to be reacting around here. The reasons why I took partials and moved my trade or my stop loss to break even is because right after this session, which is I'm only going to be on here for another couple of minutes, I do have to head out for the day, and I won't have the time to manage this trade. And I also don't want to end off the week with price moving back down into drawdown, and I don't want to hold on to that throughout the weekend.
Makes sense. Nice trade.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody take anything themselves? Starting to get a retracement here on gold. See, we made that push up. Now price is starting to continue down. So was that a liquidity grab? So we'll see how this candle ends up closing in 1 minute. How's this 15 minute going to close? I believe it just possibly closed. Yeah, there we go. So hard liquidity grab of that area up there. Is this candle starting to flip bearish? to continue right back down. We'll see what we end up doing. That is a long wick. 5 minute ended up closing right back below that level. We have a support right here. And keep in mind, this could be a no trade day for you, right? Unless things start happening as far as like breaking the support, could you get a sell below that level to continue down? You gotta have your setup that you're normally used to. You're not just entering a trade just so you don't miss it.
100%. The entire week was like a no trade week for me.
Oh, okay. Barely took anything?
Yeah, there wasn't much volume in New York session, so then what I did was kind of went back and back tested other sessions. So Asian was a little bit slow, but London session seemed like had some good volume.
Yeah, London had some nice moves this week. Yes, it did. Alright guys, I know Sean has to hop off. Does anyone have any other questions? Any in YouTube?
I don't see any other questions here.
Okay.
Kazi took a sell at 1706.
On gold?
Yes.
1706. Okay, so what made you take that sell? Is this on YouTube or Zoom?
Yeah, YouTube.
Oh, okay. Let me answer real quick. So far, we're still holding a support. So I would really wait for 9 o'clock. You got the 4 hour, which is going to be closing soon. All right, so we just tapped into this area up here, 1715. Could we be rejecting it to continue down? Let's see. All right, guys, if there's no other questions, you guys have a great day. Have a great weekend as well. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, and we're also going to have the simulation session today.
Yes.
And I believe it is at, let me reconfirm the time real quick. It is at 2 p.m. PST, which is 5 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see you guys back here on YouTube for the simulation session. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Have a great day.